trust the story that is within you and don't be afraid to speak directly to it.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the CC America Podcast, a show dedicated to helping others get mentally fit through testimonies of faith, inspiration, and transformation. We hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to another live taping of the CC America Podcast. I am your host, Tamaria Jordan, and we have the wonderful pleasure of welcoming to the CC America stage, Mrs. Adrianne Free. Welcome, Adrianne.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
You're welcome. Well, we are excited to have you. And guests, let me tell you, you are in for a treat. If this is your first time checking out the CC America Podcast, this is a show dedicated to helping others get mentally fit through stories of faith, inspiration, and transformation. So tonight I said you're in for a treat because Adrianne Free is an award-winning certified group fitness instructor and dance ministry lead. Adrianne literally and figuratively dances to the beat of her own drum. She has a passion for encouraging and leading the next generation, first as a therapeutic recreational dance instructor for disabled teens and young adults, and now weekly with the youth at her church. Though Adrianne has had to navigate life differently with Palsy, she enjoys challenging herself to reach beyond her limits, whether solo vacationing, internationally, dancing on skates, or competing in speed typing contests with one hand. This godmother of 6, born in North Carolina, graduated from North Carolina A&T State University School of Technology, and now resides in Virginia. Adrianne is a new best-selling author who recently released her first children's book titled Differently Daphne, as you can see here in my background, which debuted at number 6 on Amazon's hot new release top 10 list. Congratulations, Adrianne.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. So this book is a fun, rhyming, yet inspirational children's story. Differently Daphne is written to encourage children with limb differences to know that they are enough, to never give up, and that they are just as capable as anyone else, even if they have to do things differently. So let's let Adrianne tell us a little bit about herself to kick us off.
Awesome. So as you've read, my book, and I will start with my book because my book is a reflection of my life growing up with Palsy. So I am a girl that has a difference, right? But I had to learn that my difference was my superpower. And so it was just through the encouragement of my family and my friends that I was able to identify that my difference is not a bad thing. It helps me to be able to accomplish the same things as other people. I just might have to learn how to do them differently. And so it gave me a little bit of an edge, right? And that's how I think about it now. Like it's taught me how to think outside the box, be resourceful, be creative, use my imagination. And so that kind of helped, tailor who I am today. I'm very optimistic. I'm always like kind of living in the clouds. I'm not gonna say always, because sometimes I gotta bring myself back down. But I love thinking about what could be, and so I definitely don't, see that as a hindrance. But that is one thing that I had to learn how to work through, growing up. Like you said, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I have to say this. I am a graduate of North Carolina A&T, so Aggie pride.
I love it.
We can't go without saying that. But I'm a dancer, as you read. I'm a lover of music. I'm a God chaser. I'm a venture-seeking individual that just kind of always looking to live my dream, but navigate life in the process the best way I can. So I think that kind of sums up a little bit of who I am.
I love it, Adrianne. And you know what I thought was beautiful? Even in the introduction of your book, you talked about your parents, how they provided you with the freedom and encouragement to believe beyond your limitations. So it kind of speaks to what you mentioned about, being in the clouds and dreaming. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so my parents, oh my goodness, my parents were amazing. And most of the time you don't really realize that until you get older, right?
True.
And so what kind of inspired me to write this book is, my experiences out in the world, seeing people that have an injury similar to mine, or perhaps the same one, not having the same amount of confidence or joy within themselves. And I realized, and also being older and being around younger children. I have nieces, and like you said, I have godchildren. That starts early. So
Right.
it really made me realize how great of an example and how great of parents I had and was blessed to have growing up. And so yeah, they, of course I ran into hardships, learning how to do some of the simple things that may be simple to everybody else. But trying to work through those frustrations, and over time, even though they, would jump in and help me, they soon realized how independent I was, because once I learned that I was able to do something, even like I said, with just a tweak of doing it a little bit differently, I kind of ran with that. And so they, got to a point where they knew they had to back off, and that they wanted to back off so that I can have that sense of independence. And I think that really, once again, just really painted the picture for where I am today and what I am able to see myself doing without the blockage of I have a disability, I can't.
Right.
And therefore, like I said, I push with I can do this, It may be a
Amen.
little bit of a struggle today. But if I work through it, if I, have a positive mindset,
Yes.
then I can eventually overcome it and um, get through it. And so that like I said, they've just been amazing in that. And they're that way today, they're, they'll maybe like, Adrianne, I don't know if you should, but then they're like, we know you got it,
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I just know that you have always been an inspiration to me. So, for anyone that doesn't know, Adrienne and I are good friends from way back when we met in Hampton Roads, Virginia.
Yeah.
We've cheered together, we've danced together, and this woman is absolutely amazing. So, yes, I'm so proud of you and all of the things that you've accomplished, all the things you will accomplish, and just always being true to who you are and having that spirit where you are encouraging, uplifting what we said in your bio and what you've said about yourself and what others have seen as well. You are certainly an inspiration to many children and adults alike.
Ah, thank you. That means a lot because you inspire me. I know I say that all the time as well to you.
I
Iron sharpens
appreciate it.
iron.
Amen. Yes. Speaking of iron sharpening iron, you talked about being a God chaser, and we talked about your ministry work. So, what role has faith played in your journey?
Oh, a major role, especially stepping out on my own. It's nice to have that cushion, that nest of your parents, right? And but once you step out on your own and have to really learn how to navigate life, you really realize where your help comes from, right?
Amen.
Because sometimes some things are just overbearing, right? Or at least feel that way. And there have been, situations in my adult life where I had to really press on God to get through situations. And so faith has been a huge part. And the more that I grow and the more that I experience, the more and more it, becomes like a requirement, a necessity, right? Like sometimes sit and be like, man, I don't know where or how, or, where I would be if I didn't have God in my life. Because sometimes life can knock you down and knock you down hard,
That part.
um so yeah, so I had to really just kind of, like I said, trust in God on some situations or a lot of situations. And even in pursuit of this book and other endeavors, I just really had to, pray about that thing. As my dad would say, got to pray about that thing sometimes, so had to
Amen.
really pray about that thing and trust God. So um, God is God is everything. God is everything. And I just always work to try to strengthen that relationship. We fall down, but we get up.
Yes.
So that's always kind of the on the forefront or top priority, with my day to day, so
I love it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
speaking of which, in terms of your book, and when you mentioned, having the faith to push forward, you recently released Differently Daphne, which is your first children's book. I know it will not be your last, which debuted at number 6 on Amazon's hot new release top 10 list. So you are rocking it out. So
Ah,
can you tell us what inspired you, a little bit more about, I should say, what inspired you to write the book?
um, so I knew, well, the setting of my story takes place when a little girl with a difference, and I'm just going to group it and, as a difference, enters into school. And we know at that time, and it doesn't even have to be pertaining to school, because even as adults, when we walk into new situations, we can kind of get in a space of comparing, right? So kids do the same thing. And of course, even more so, when they haven't been around a lot of children. And so they immediately start to look at what makes them different. And so I wanted to write a story that speaks to children in that specific circumstance, but also show the impact of having empathetic friends, compassionate friends, and show the role that they play and how essential that is to children, to kind of help steer children away from, situations of being bullied or being the bully. So it centers around all that, but I really wanted to speak to children at that age where they are really influenced, and where their confidence, where they're at a stage where they're starting to build their self-belief and confidence, and try to get them at that tender age so that as they grow older, they can not harp down on the difference in a negative way, but start looking at it in a positive way, and also be able to see how they can be that source of encouragement to other people that may have a difference, or just uniquely themselves in maybe a fun, fantastic, squirrely kind of way sometimes.
I love it.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, this is really a hot topic and on time for what you're doing because obviously the pandemic shut a lot of things down, but as we go back to school, I know even before that, bullying was a hot topic. And then knowing people who've gone through it. So I think it's very timely. And as you mentioned, it's a difference. It makes you unique, it makes you special. And I love that you're using your story to inspire and encourage others.
Yeah. I think that's we're definitely in a time, and I know it's a children's book, but we're just definitely in a time where people need that encouragement. I mean, we're in a social media age, and oh my
Yes.
goodness, talk about comparing. I know even though I've written this book, right, but we've all written from a place that we've gone through,
Right.
and sometimes still working through, right? But talk about comparing. And so, being that we're in such a space where we are constantly looking at other people's lives, you know, um, we need something that encourages you to accept your difference, accept what makes you unique, and really thrive in that, and appreciate it. Because there's always what they say, you can always try to be a copy, but there's nothing better than the original, or
Oh, I
whatever
like
that saying
that.
is.
Yes, I like that. And you know what? That's so true. And it's so funny. I was just talking to someone about this. I said, people see 60 seconds and they assume they know someone's entire life. They don't see the struggles. They're like, wait a minute. They may think that on the surface something looks one way, and then you find out it's something completely different.
Absolutely.
And so it is interesting how social media, it's been both a blessing and a curse in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because you're right, I see why they say comparison is the thief of joy. And I don't think I understood it when I was younger, but now I really see,
Mm,
we all have so much to be grateful for, but the more we're looking around, the less we can see in front of us and see, how blessed we truly are. So trust me, God has dealt with me in that area as well sometimes,
mm.
comparing our journeys and life experiences. But I think there's benefits to the comparison, but then also obviously to your point, not getting bogged down by the comparison.
Right. Yeah. Like if you're comparing to inspire, right? Like as an author, I look at other authors and I'm like,
Right.
ooh, that's awesome what they're doing. Ooh, how awesome. Maybe one day I could do that, right? But not
Yes.
to settle in on the fact that I am not quite there or my situation doesn't look exactly like theirs. But if you're living in a space to be inspired by them, great, right? And I think that's
Yes.
what helps us to continue to push forward. We need to continue to be inspired by other people. So yeah, and the benefit of that of social media, yeah, it's great in that aspect. But when you focus on it too long to try to see why you're not where they are, or to start picking
Right.
yourself apart, then that's when it gets dangerous. That's when it
Oh,
gets dangerous.
for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what advice, speaking of inspiring others, what advice would you give to other aspiring authors?
I would say stick to the story that is true to you, because there are so many people waiting to hear your story. And I think sometimes it's funny how we keep going back to this comparing thing, but sometimes we want to feel like, well, my nobody's going to want to hear my story, or I
Mm.
don't really have a story, because we're looking at other people. But there are so many people in this world, and there are so many people that could relate to you. So I would
Yes.
tell people, yeah, to really stick to your story and share your story, and link to people that are kind of going in the same direction as you, or that can add to what you may be writing about, because you can get inspiration from those people, as we were just talking about. So I just say, really trust the story and the vision that, if you're a believer, that God gave to you, and go with it, right? Because there's somebody waiting on it. So yeah, so that's I think that's like the basic thing. If you're writing from that kind of self-help, that uh nonfiction, space. But yeah, just really trust the story that is within you, and don't be afraid to speak directly to it.
Oh, yes. I love that. So, speaking of which, can you speak directly to us about what we can expect from Adrianne over the next year?
Oh man, over the next year, well, I hope to be doing more of these.
Yes.
I hope to be doing more of this, and continuing to push the message of Differently Daphne, um, you know, not only just nationally, but internationally, speaking. I know I have I have something lined up for next year, which, oh my goodness, Tamaria, is actually a 10-year, I would say over 10-year in the making kind of situation,
Okay.
that if I did not write this book, that this opportunity may not have ever happened.
Oh, wow. Oh, I cannot wait.
Yes. So yeah, so just continuing to, push Differently Daphne out there, hopefully be on, somebody's TV screen somewhere, and
Yes.
like I said, continue to speaking to children that have brachial plexus injuries, earth palsy injuries. And And I was getting ready to leave out a good part. I want to make this a series. So I'm hoping to, within the next year to come out with my second book. So walking differently Daphne into a new challenge, and also showing children how she was able to overcome that challenge. So yeah, I'm hoping to come out with book 2, another best-selling
Yes.
book as part of the Differently Daphne series.
Well, we love to hear it. And one thing that I probably should have asked earlier, some individuals may not be familiar with Erb's palsy or brachial plexus injuries. Can you explain for our audience what those are?
Yeah, so Erb's palsy, the injury that I have, is a birth injury. So it actually is a result of a shoulder dystocia event that occurs during delivery. And what that is basically when the baby gets stuck, baby's shoulder gets stuck in the birth canal. And usually through the navigating of trying to get that child out, because at that point when they're stuck, they're not breathing, right? So in the navigating of trying to get the child out, the the nerves that attach to the brachial root are sometimes stretched or severed. And so it causes, some mild injuries all the way to some very severe injuries. And so when it's birth related like that, it's Erb's palsy. Brachial plexus injury is kind of more, not necessarily have to occur during birth, but it's just when there is like I said, a stretching, a tearing, a bruising of the nerve that controls the movement, the growth in the arm, hand, and that could actually kind of occur maybe from a situation like a car accident, a really severe car accident, or so yeah, so that's what Erb's palsy or brachial plexus injuries are, kind of in short. So yeah, a shoulder dystocia doesn't always end in an Erb's palsy injury, but it could potentially lead to that. And it's actually a very common injury, but there are a lot of children that heal from them. So there's more of a percentage that heals from it than there are that do not heal from it. Because I mean, you got to think about how many children are birthed, in a day, right?
True.
So and the size of your baby, it could play a large part in that too. Because if you have a really big baby, like I was 10 pounds, 14 ounces. So I know as you as a mom, we're probably like, whoa, so there's a large baby trying to come out of a small space, and
Right.
naturally you could get stuck, right? So yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about Erb's palsy. Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very informative. So I'm going to touch and agree with you that you will be able to be on these platforms and educate individuals. And definitely, as you're doing, just continuing to inspire us, because I learned a lot. I've learned a lot from you. And even what you've shared today has been inspiring me. So I know that you've learned a lot on this journey called life. What are a few of the most impactful lessons that you would say you've learned to date?
Oh man. I think one would be never wait on the perfect opportunity. I think a lot of times we get caught up in trying to put a specific timeline or a specific scenario to an event that you're going to do, or a dream that you're going to pursue. And what I have learned is that there's never really a perfect situation, right? There's never really a
True.
perfect moment. And so you just kind of have to, if you really want to do that thing, do it now, right? And that doesn't even have to be in business. I also apply that when it comes to exploring the world and traveling and doing fun, exciting things such as that. Because I never want to get in a space where I say I shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Right.
If I waited for waited until I got married, or if I waited until I got all this money, or then it may never happen. And we only get one life, right?
So true.
So, you have the opportunity to go back, when you are married, when you have more money, but if you
I
have
like
the,
that.
yeah. So if you have the chance to do that thing today, then do it. And I learned that lesson actually kind of young. Uh, funny story. When I was dating a guy in high school, and a friend of mine invited me to go on this trip. And I was so sure that I was like, it's spring break. And me and this boyfriend, we're going to go to the movies. We're going to go here, we're going to go there. And Tamara asked me if any of that happens. So I missed out on a free trip with a
Oh,
friend.
wow.
Yes, to wait and do something with someone that, claimed we were going to do this and that, and it never happened. So I learned that lesson early. I said, never again will
I
I
know
do
that's
that.
right.
If I want to do a thing, I'm going to do it, and if you want to do that thing, but we can do that thing when I come back. Right.
Yes,
I'm not going to miss
exactly.
out on this opportunity. And that's just like, so going back to even on the business side, when you have a dream, an idea, if you can find a way to make it happen, if you can link up with the right people, take that opportunity now. And I think we learned that as well through the pandemic.
True.
Sadly, we've lost a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of those people and even their loved ones did not expect for them to not be here. And
Right.
and so I know it really taught me an even greater lesson in sticking to that. Adrianne, do that thing, go to that place, eat that, go get that ice cream you really want to because you just kind of never know, everything in moderation, right? And we want to be safe
Right.
and all that stuff too. But I mean, besides that, what could kind of, I guess, maybe could categorize as common sense things, just do it, like Nike.
I like it. I'm here for it. That's true. So I'm gonna get that ice cream tonight.
All right now, and enjoy it. Enjoy it. Don't let it be sugar free either now.
I love it. So speaking of which, you had mentioned, even in your career and just going for it. So in your career and outside of work, you have been blessed to wear many hats and like you said earlier, just going for it. So how do you maintain a healthy balance, juggling everything that you do in and outside of work?
Oh, I think that is a constant work in progress because I am a natural overachiever and I love to be involved. Um, so I have to constantly remind myself that, Adrianne, you might want to do everything, but you can't do everything, and it's okay. And so for mental health as well, I've definitely learned a lot about that over, the last couple of years, and in trying to, find that me time and really be able to recharge and restore. I have to constantly remind myself that. So that is a work in progress. But, with me teaching dance to my girls at church, that is an outlet that I love, and dance fitness. I love that, with skating, like all of that I love. So I try to do that, as often as I can, because I don't want to miss out on the fun in life. I mean, I know we work hard, right? But
Right.
we gotta enjoy life too. And so I try to do that, try to have, fun, when I can, um and try to find, solace in those things that God has blessed me with the opportunity to be able to do. And yeah, so it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, but I'm very active in maintaining that as a focus,
Okay.
um, day to day. But some days are challenging, more challenging than others.
And you know, when you said that, it reminded me of a quote that one of my colleagues had shared with me, and I was trying to see if I could figure out who wrote it. Actually, it was Dolly Parton. And she
Oh,
said, "Don't get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life." And I remember where I was working at the time, I was working like some days 12 hours, I was coming in on the weekends. And someone said to me, like, you know, I feel like you're going to do more than like where you are now. And they were like, "Why are you here?" And I remember thinking, like, well, that's an interesting question. In my mind, I'm
yeah,
thinking I'm on the path that I think I want to be on, but
right.
they could see more in me than I could see in myself. So they had that, they had mentioned that quote. So then I happened to be in Virginia Beach and I found it. I think it was in the store somewhere. It was a refrigerator magnet, but it also had the hook to hang on your door. So I
Yeah,
took it to work and put it on my cube and I gave her one. And I said, that is a really good quote because
it
we
is.
forget. So I love what you said about that balance. And you know, we have to have
Mhm.
fun and enjoy ourselves because
We do.
otherwise what is life if we're not enjoying it?
Exactly. Exactly. I'm like, hey, I want to do big things. And yes, I want to, try to live up to my best potential,
Right.
professionally or, entrepreneurially. I think that's a word, right?
It said, look, sounds good to me. Look, we know what you mean.
Right. Yeah. But at the same time, I enjoy spending time with family and friends and
Yes.
I don't want to miss out on that. So yeah, we definitely got to remember to live
That's
for
so
sure.
true. Know that I miss you, Boo.
Oh, I
I,
miss you too.
oh my gosh, we have so many memories. So to our listeners, we just really so many memories over the years. And ironically, I'll share this quick story before we wrap up. But Adrienne and I, we met in Virginia Beach many years ago, and I told her earlier that I had the journal where she and I met. I think I remember now where we were. We were off Alaskan Road.
Okay.
We were sitting outside near that Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
And we wrote like I think it was Laskin Road. I remember being in Virginia Beach, and I shared with her earlier that on July 13th, Adrian and I sat outside and we talked about our dreams and we wrote down some things. And I am happy to say that some of those things we've actually done. And it's funny, it may have happened years later. And
Right.
I pulled out this book today because that was the year that the vision for CC America came to me, August 2010. So a little bit after. And so I
Yeah.
was just like, oh my gosh, like what are the odds of that time? It was either 2010 or
Oh,
2011, but I remember it was around the time that we were cheering together. So I said, there is something about doing what you feel God has called you to do, to write the vision and make it plain. Because
mhm.
who knew in 2021, on July 22nd, we would be sitting here today having this conversation.
Exactly. Like, wow.
Full circle.
Wow. Yes, full circle. And I was thinking about that. I know you, like you said, you brought that up to me earlier, but I was thinking about that maybe a few weeks ago. Like, I remember when Tamara and I were thinking of this like business plan and we were trying to, get our ducks
Yes,
in a row. We are going to open our establishment and
exactly.
everything. Yeah. So it is great. And that's why it's so awesome to like see what you're doing now and to see how you've expanded and grown your brand. And you inspire and you make me proud. I'm like, I know
Oh,
her. I know her.
thank you. And likewise,
Yeah.
likewise, sis.
Oh, thanks.
So, can you tell our listeners how they can connect with you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram under BPI author underscore Adrianne Free, and also on Facebook as well So yeah, facebook.com/, I think it is, BPI author _ Adrianne Free as well. If you do a search, it's just author Adrianne Free. And yeah, I think those are my two main platforms that I utilize now. I will expand and catch up at some point.
Trust me, I understand. It's a work in progress. And would you like to share your website as well?
Yes, it's www.authoradrianfree.com.
Fantastic. So before we wrap up, what is one personal affirmation that you live by?
Ooh, oh man, that's a good question. Okay, so I'm gonna do it two ways.
Okay.
So in my book, Differently Daphne, I present an affirmation that children can take away with them. And the affirmation in that book is, my name is, and you can fill in the blank, but in this case, we'll say Daphne. My name is Daphne, and I believe in me. I am strong and smart enough to do this differently.
I love
So yes, so that's my affirmation from Differently Daphne. And I think for me, oh goodness, in real life, I feel like I have so many different things that I am like, oh, let me look at this scripture, or let me look at, remind myself of this. But I think at the end of the day, I always just try to tell myself to press forward and trust God. Like
yeah.
I really do. I think that's a constant reminder to myself, just press forward and trust God, right? So yeah, I think that kind of sums that up in a few words.
I love it. Well, Adrianne, on behalf of myself and our listeners, we just want to thank you so much for spending time with us on the CC America podcast. I know that our listeners will be just as inspired as I am. Keep doing your thing, keep shining, Queen. And to all of our listeners, be blessed. Until next time, have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the CC America podcast. We appreciate you tuning in week after week and joining us for stories of faith, inspiration, and transformation. So that you never miss an update, please subscribe at www.ccamericapodcast.com. You can also follow us on all of our social media platforms at CC America LLC. You can also just search for CC America on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We hope that you are encouraged and inspired by this show. If so, please don't hesitate to share the episodes or let people know that you are listening so that they too can be inspired. We appreciate your support, and until next time, be blessed.